And here we go. Hello, everyone, and welcome to yet another session of Dr. Figma. Name is Bruno. I'm Figma, Friends of Figma Portugal user group leader here out of Lisbon. And today we'll be chatting about all those amazing new updates that Figma launched during Config. Their new UI3, all of the Figma AI stuff, and also Figma Slides. As it's usual, this entire session is being streamed on YouTube. So happy to chat with you guys. If you drop a little hi on the chat, your questions, whatever you're looking for. And if you want to join us in the doctor's office, you can just head to friends.figma.com and enter the room. I can see that we have at least one person already here with us. Aya Kemi, welcome. You don't need to turn on the camera or microphone, but we're happy if you want to join us live. And you can use the chat for any questions that you might have. And we also have a Gonzalo. Hi, Gonzalo. Welcome.
Hi, Bruno. Thank you.
Thank you. Where are you watching us from?
From Berlin, Germany.
Berlin. Nice. Already in at least two ends of Europe right now. So we're already stretching the reach here. And we also have Javier and Christian. Hi, everyone. As I said before, you guys are not demanded to open up cameras while you're in the room, but if you want to chat and open up the cameras, we're more than happy to have your questions here answered. Please don't forget that while we have a topic per session, we always open up the session for questions for everyone. But my first question for everyone, and I would love to see that on the chat, is where you guys are tuning in from. Where do we have all of these really cool people? Hello, Isabella. Again, you can use the microphone, you can use the camera, but if you're not comfortable, just drop your questions and your messages on the chat. And I'm still trying to see if you guys will tell me where you're watching from. I know that I'm in Lisbon. Gonzalo is in Berlin because he had already said that the microphone went on. Let's see if anyone else listens or if you guys are really not wanting to. Porto, there you go. So, Northern capital, Ovar, Pondlaw capital, and then Porto again. There you go. Okay. Um, Thanks for all of you guys that are already tuned in. So today we're going to be talking about mostly all of these new updates that were launched during config. Greetings from Pakistan. Nice. The network here growing a little bit with Javier. Interesting. And we're gonna go through the three, let's call it, categories during the day today. We're gonna talk a little bit about the new UI3. I know that not everyone has access to it, but we're also gonna talk about how you can request access to the UI3. We're gonna be talking about Figma AI features, and we're gonna be talking about Figma Slides. So if you guys are ready, I can start, but at any point, if you have any specific question about any of these topics or other topics that might come into play while we're talking about it, be my guest. Happy to have you ask your questions live, and would love to see everything that you guys have to ask. And hello, Maria João, Cristina, and Marta, welcome. Would love to know where you guys are tuning in. Christina is coming from Lisbon, so right near here. And let's see where everyone else is coming in. Porto. So Porto is in strong presence here today. I think I thought about it when I chose the blue as the main color for today's stream. No, I'm kidding. But I am happy to see so many people from Porto interested in the topic. And that's it. Well, okay, Marijo is from Sporting, but he's in Porto. Okay, got it. No problems. No one's going to be offended. I don't care about football, so we're fine. Okay, so first things first, let's chat a little bit about UI3. In case you don't know and you missed it, during config, the biggest announced change coming up to Figma is this new interface that you should be seeing now on the stream. With a little hands up or some comments, anyone here already has access to the new UI? Are you all still waiting on the wait list? Would love to know. Marta is waiting. Gonzalo is still waiting. Javier is also on the wait list. Now it's question number one. Are you guys really on the wait list, or did you forgot to click on the request to be on the wait list? So Christina says without waiting list. Akemi says that their colleagues already have it. Gonzalo, Marta, and I think that's it right now. Everyone's kind of still waiting. So in case you don't know, if you still don't have the UI3, you can get it by clicking on this, or can request to have it by clicking on this little button here on the bottom right corner with the question mark. And you should have an option here where you can see, in my case, go back to previous UI or the information about navigating Figma's new UI. There's an option here to join the waitlist for Figma AI and Figma UI3. What some of the big differences with UI3? Well, first things first, system changes a lot because you now have more of a floating window kind of style. Biggest change, I think, for almost everyone is going to be that our toolbar now lives on the bottom instead of up here. Maria João is asking if it's available for student accounts. It's basically becoming available for everyone, but it's slowly rolling out in beta. It's still being tested out because a lot of changes happened, a lot of features were adjusted to make this work this way. So with these type of gigantic changes, what Figma is doing is slowly rolling out to a selected group of users. These users are then picking up the information and testing out the UI and doing a lot of feedback so that Figma can then pick up the work that is being done and basically get something out of it and maybe update the UI and make sure that it's actually great to release to everyone else. So it should be available, but I can't see those options on the student account. Well, that shouldn't happen, but I can actually do a quick test here. Let's see, because, for example, on my other profile, I know that I don't have the tool. What you should see should be something like, let me just start here a new untitled file. Well, actually, I think they might have removed it. So I don't know if they are putting everyone on waitlist, and maybe Maria João, you're right. There you go. I already asked to be waitlisted. I don't know if that changes anything, but things change daily with Figma. For example, this week they are trying to do something like 10 days, 10 updates to the Figma Slides, which is their new software. So that might be the case. So the best that I can say right now is you guys might have to wait really for this. Okay. Focusing on what actually changed and showcasing a little bit of what's here. And by the way, at any time, if you have any question for the people in the room, don't have any problems into just starting to chat and drop a message. You can open your microphone and your camera or message on the chat. And hi, Travis on YouTube. So we're starting to have everyone everywhere. Some of the biggest, some of the changes that are, some of the things that are kind of familiar that haven't changed that much are the pages and layers area. You can see now that you have a little bit of a cleaned up layers type of situation, but it's essentially what you had before. Same with pages. But it's a little bit more organized because now they are on the same location. You can collapse the pages list instead of having that little weird page name over here. Now the search option is here, although if you're like me, you're probably just gonna use Command F to find search, so to find things. Assets panel is also here, essentially what we had before. But for example, some of the options that you had over here on the top when you clicked on the product name and everything like that now are here on the left and always available instead of being only available if you click on the background. You have everything from the show version history to export, creating branches if you're on an enterprise or organization level, color profiles, duplicate, rename, etc. And then your Figma menu, if you're looking for it, it's here on the little F on the side. Then if you click here, what this does is minimizing your UI, giving you only the tools, but adding all the other panels and everything, giving you a little bit of a more cleaner view while not losing the toolbar, which is something that they didn't have in the past. What I'm going to do right now is, for you guys that are here on the chat, I'm going to invite you into the file. If you want, I'm going to make it just edit available. So dropping the link on the chat if you want to join the file. And that will also allow me to do a second thing, which is, for example, if I click to follow Akemi, immediately Figma knows that I'm trying to follow someone and hides the UI so that I don't get all of that clutter while I'm trying to follow someone and see what they are working on. So that minimize UI works really well. The moment that I stop following someone, you can see that I immediately have the options back available, all the panels, right? So easy enough, really intuitive thing that they did here, and fun. Now, when it comes to the properties UI, for starters, there's a couple of cool things that they did. Now the right side of the panel is rescalable, which before it wasn't, right? You couldn't really do this. Now you can. So a lot of information that might have been very much compressed on the right side panel, now you can make it a little bit wider if you feel like you need that extra information. Same with the left panel. And you can see that this is where a lot of the changes actually happened in terms of how things are now organized. Position now only has alignments and coordinates. It doesn't have dimensions. The size of things now lives on the layout section, which, by the way, now it's shared between auto layout and layout. So it doesn't have two different options for auto layout or regular layouts. So if you click on an auto layout object, you get an auto layout UI. If you click on a regular layout object, a frame or a box, you can get just the layout. And here you have options like clip content and show content. This is one of those that has been debated a lot because some people don't really like the fact that this is now, instead of a clicking option, a drop-down option. So you can start to see some of the changes as people aren't as happy about. But now you have other controls like easy rotation by 90 degrees or flip here as visual tools that you can click instead of just using shortcuts. So more of these tools are being brought to the top level here. And you still have your fill, your stroke, your effects. Layout grids are now closer to the bottom. Instead of being up here, mixed up and everything. This way, this entire panel is much more stable, independent of where you work on things. And rounded corners now got dropped into this section called appearance, where you can choose opacity, rounded corners, and blend modes. So they are here now. So these are some of the changes that start happening here on the right panel. More changes that you can also see are stuff like how the auto layout panel got adjusted. Dimensions, as I said, are here, width and height. And now fill and hug and fixed options that were in a different panel before, now they also exist on the auto layout panel on the width and height. So it's one place to define if it's fixed dimension, hug, or fill dimension. And here you still have all of the classic options that you get When you do auto layout, you have vertical, horizontal, and wrap options. You can see that something that changes when you use the wrap options is that the padding for horizontal and vertical now are here, a little bit more visible than before. All the alignments are still the same, and auto layout settings are now on this little symbol here. That is like the settings icon, kind of easy to just click on and understand, and all the options are the same that you had before. I don't know if you noticed so far, but one of the things that we actually don't see anywhere, and I'm going to create a little phone frame here on the side so you guys can understand what I'm talking about, is even if you add an object like this, now anchors or constraints don't show up visually on the UI. Why? Because Figma put our constraints into this little kit thing here. Because constraints have to do with positioning and the way that your file should be, or your object in this case should be positioning, and this makes it a little bit more visually correct. It might be hard for people to get used to it, but it is in the location that makes sense for them, which would be, okay, now that we have this, we can basically select based on these coordinates how this object will act. Another thing that they also did was, if you select multiple objects and you're trying to do the tidy up and things like that, like you did before, they exist in these little three dots here like before. And if you have something like a tidy up on a regular option, when you have the spacing between the objects, you get that information here. It's kind of simple. If you have it in a grid, it should show. Let me just pull these in. So you can see it shows the horizontal and the vertical distances here. And those commands still exist visually here, like in the past. So there's nothing that overly new, but now you know where those are. Some things that disappeared from the top panel, though, are the booleans, the components, and those things are actually here, right where you have the name of the layer, the type of the layer, or the options attached to it. So you have things like select matching layers that will try to look matching layers and select them. You have the create component that will add the properties panel here on the top, and you can then add your properties and describe your component and put everything, because now it's basically focused on components information right at the top, so you don't have to look for it on the side. And then you have stuff like adding variants, using masks. If you select multiple objects, you get the Boolean operations. So union, subtract, intersect, exclude. And you can see that this is always available there if you have multiple objects. But if you have those, if you click on the three dots, you actually get all of those options also always available here, including create component set, multiple components, masks, flatten. So everything that used to be up here on the top now lives on this little section here. And I think that's most of the big changes on the panels. Then you have the toolbar, which mostly has the same tools, but you now have the option to go into dev mode right here, which, if you notice, changes the UI fully. So if you enter dev mode, then you can do it by clicking here on the bottom, or if you do Shift D, you can shift between design mode and dev mode. You can see that the entire UI changes, including the toolbar, so that you get a better notion that you're actually working on a specific thing. Dev mode has a bunch of cool features, including, for example, a feature called focus mode, which, to be honest, I haven't used it yet, so I don't know how it runs. But I know that it's easy enough for you to kind of just select things and go around and drop your own annotations and measurements and things like that for your developers to work on and see. UI got cleaned up a little bit, but it's essentially the same it used to be with the dev mode. And last but not least, and this is why we eventually going to jump into the next section, you got the new actions little option here. So the actions option was essentially what you would get in the past when you opened the actions bar. You can do that by Command P, or for example, in the some. I know that some keyboards, like in the US, they are testing out Command K, which still doesn't work right now. That's still attached to links. But Command P seems to be the global, or Control P if you're on Windows, seems to be the global shortcut. It will open that search bar or that action bar that you used to have before, that usually showed up in the middle of the screen, now shows up on the bottom, and you have all of those things that you had on the past under the assets and plugins option. So you can actually see your libraries here, or you can look for plugins and widgets here, or you have the new options that are like Figma AI based here, so you can kind of just work and build your own thing. So with that in mind, I'm gonna copy my UI here, move to the next page, and I'm gonna start looking at the new Figma AI features. Before I move ahead, anyone in the chat, you guys have any questions about the Figma UI3? You have any thing that you would like to understand better? Let me know. If you want to just open up microphone and camera, also, again, you're welcome. Not mandatory, but we would love to see you while we're talking with you. So let's start looking at these things. What can you do with Figma AI features? A bunch of things, right? Like there's a bunch of small things that they did. One key feature, and this is something that I think everyone should know, and I'm actually gonna try and grab a little thing that I saw today about it in a sec while we are here. Give me a second. The the thing that I'm going to talk about is the main feature that people were kind of afraid of, or more reluctant about, um, what the new Figma tools are. I was trying to look for a little thing, a little document that I wanted to share with you guys, but I don't know if I have it. So give me a second to see if I can find that. Yeah, it's gonna be hard. I need to look for it on a social network. Sorry about that. Was there was this Figma AI feature called Make Design. So that was the most basic feature. You basically used Gen AI to create. There you go. I found the article. I'm gonna just copy the link and send it to you guys. So what Make Design made was literally that. Like you would ask Make Design, and you can see that it's now, for now, unavailable, currently unavailable, right? And you would describe what you wanted, and the Figma tool would go and use the libraries that it got from their AI integrations, which, if I'm not mistaken, is mostly OpenAI, and mix it up with something really cool that they launched, which are UI kits that are basically libraries that don't need to exist inside your file. They can be shared, for example, through the Figma community. They have this thing called Simple Design Systems that they share with everyone. That is a massive, gigantic design system that has a bunch of tools that anyone can use. And through the use of the Simple Design System mixed up with OutSystem, with Figma AI, you basically would get apps that were designed using really well-built components and ideas that came out of your head. The problem was the training set. Yeah. Okay. I'll answer your question, Akemi, in a little sec. Sorry. But problem with the Figma AI features that were doing that was that the data set that came out of OpenAI had a lot of real world things, and people were asking, for example, for a weather app, and it looked too much like the weather app from Apple. So since the results were always so similar, Figma decided to take the product down and look into how they can make it less dangerous in that sense of copying someone else's copyrighted assets, and focus on creating more original type of solutions, or more standardized type of solutions that don't really look like anyone else's work. So that is it. Before I answer your question, Akemi, I'm just gonna do one thing to showcase the power of these UI kits, which is I'm going to add the iOS UI kit now to my file. This doesn't mean that I need to duplicate it anymore from the community like in the past. Now you literally have access to this, and it's updated by the Apple team, and it's always available here. You can then come here and look for whatever you're trying to use from the Apple UI. And for example, in my case, I kind of want to try and see if I can add one of those like iPhone nav bars here on the top. So I can just come here and drop one of these. Or if I just want to, for example, this one, I can try and figure out what that one is. I don't want all of these. I really just wanted the status bar. So I'm just going to look for that. And this is also one of the things that Figma AI starts working a lot better now. I'm using the correct naming, but even if the components sometimes are not fully well registered with the correct keywords and everything, Figma AI now knows how to kind of try and identify your components based on how they are built. So if you forgot to name something with the correct keyword, it will still try to help you find it based on how it interprets that AI, or the AI interprets that asset. So in this case, I'm just going to try and drop a little bar there. There you go. I'm going to remove the background. And I even have access to the appearance, so I can actually choose if I want the light or the dark version. And all of this already built in with variables in this case. So you can see that there's a lot of powerful features already in this system. Just going to change my fixed width, put it to 390 pixels, and I'm going to remove my padding here, both horizontally and vertically, and we'll talk about how to make this better afterwards. Actually, this is 393 right now, but I can make it fill container. Okay, so I'm going to answer one of the questions that we got from Akemi. Do I know if any changes made to dev mode, like these measurements or annotations, might still appear for those who don't have access to the new UI? Yes, because those are tools that exist on the current UI. They kind of just were cleaned up specifically for the new UI. So they are not new. They are just a little bit cleaner, I would say. I don't think there are any issues so far. Everything that exists on the new UI it's still retro compatible with the old UI. The tools are essentially the same, so you don't really lose access to them. You just get other features that you wouldn't have before, like the Figma AI. But the native features that already came in with Figma didn't disappear or change. They kind of just have a different UI to it. And the ones that you're mentioning, which would be measurements and annotations, they were launched in dev mode before UI3, so they are available anyways. I hope this helps. Sorry about that. Water, always important, so I don't get to lose my voice. So now, what other cool things Figma AI actually gives you that are amazing and take literally seconds? So, for example, I created this little screen. It's still not perfect. Actually, I'm still going to look for the action bar. I think that's how it's called. No, I'm trying to remember the name of that little thing. It's the little bar at the bottom of the iPhone, but I never know the name of it. So I'm just going to look for like bar or something, see if it gives me the answer. Or maybe I can just drop an iPhone here, try to know if I can see the name of this. So this thing is called apparently home indicator. So let me look for indicator. There we go. And I'm going to drop one of these also here on my UI because I want it to look more like an iPhone UI. I'm going to make the size of it be on iPhone 14, 15. And I'm going to use fixed position, which now instead of being fixed position, is called ignore auto layout. And I'm going to use my constraints to say that it's going to be attached to the bottom and to the center and aligning it to the bottom. And yeah, that immediately makes it so that I now have my iPhone UI kind of ready. Notch would be on the top, Christina, by the way. So I was looking for the one on the bottom. Apparently, they call it indicator. I don't know why. But yeah, that's what it is. It's here. You have the options here to see it. They also have a few other options like being the library and community and everything, but that's it. First feature that, to be fair, I know that some of the things that I have here already kind of have the correct name where you look at the information that you have there, but is if you look at my layers panel, I really didn't care. I did not give any names to my auto layouts. I kind of just built my frames. So first feature that you can use, you come here and you have rename layers. Rename layers is such an amazing tool. You click on it, you wait a bit, it analyzes your design, and you can see that it starts renaming all your layers based on what it thinks the layers are. Of course, you're gonna get stuff like I got my icons from an icon pack. So Gonzalo, the recording is going to be on YouTube as soon as this ends. It's immediately available. So if you need to see it, you can see it there. So for example, this case, Lucid Icons is the plugin that I used. It has a very specific name for the icon, so you couldn't rename it. But in any case, everything else, it's already there. Really simple to fit. Now, I would love to have some suggestions from you guys on what you think our shop might be of, like a type of products that we could try and sell in this shop. I would love to see some comments on the chat if you guys want to. Or, again, you can just open your microphone and drop any keyword that you think we should have here, just so we can test out other AI features. If you don't have them, it's fine. Let's just see. Okay, going once, going twice. No one has ideas. Okay, Figma loves to do this. Oh, Christina said sports gear. Okay, so let's do that. I'm gonna get here and I want to drop there like the name for our shop. So one thing that you can actually do is also the rewrite this. So you can actually write content with using AI. So we can actually use this as instead of doing a rewrite and an actual rewrite, we can just type as what we want. In this case, as a name for a sports gear brand. We ask him to rewrite. There you go, Sportify Gear. Cool. It's already a good name. We have it available. We can start now trying to make this a little bit more like what we want. So a few things that you can also do is, I don't think the rewrite works for more than one element, or it does. It might do. So sports, let's see, sports gear items with their brand names. Let's see if it changes all of them. There you go. You got 3 types of products: Nike Air Max, Adidas Ultra Boost, Under Armour OGR. We can add product descriptions. Again, same thing. We write this as product descriptions for the sports gear listed. Let's see if it gets context, but I don't think it can get that much context. It's going to write a lot of content. And what we know now is that we really want this to make it short, so we can just come here again, use, instead of the rewrite this, the shorten, and it's going to try and shorten one of them every time. So we can't really do shorten on all of them, but we can do on one at a time. So I made it shorten. I need it even shorter. I click a second time. It's almost there. Let me see a third time if it can make it even shorter. It can't, but it immediately gives you a little bit of a better text here. So that's good. I would say. I don't know about you guys, but it just helps a lot. The shorten part, I've used it more than I would love to say, because I am one of those people who writes too much, and it kind of just tries to concise the content. My best practice option is like copy the content to the side, try to have the shortened version and see what the AI spills out, which is still cool. And yeah, we can have all of these like little cards here really fast. So we now used AI to rename our layers, to give our brand a name, but like this is not looking very much branded. So now I'm just gonna start playing around with what could be a good image or a key image for our sports gear. So one cool thing that we actually have is we also have make an image options. So in this case, we want a key visual of a sports person. Let's not give it a gender. Um, Doing a sports activity. Let's do it like this and see what it spills out. Let's try to use correct English so it doesn't get confused. And what Figma is going to try and do is use, again, those AI models to do image generation, much like Midjourney and DALI and all the others, and give you images that you can then try and use. In this case, let's say that we're going to use this image. This is the one that we selected. Great. How does this look? We're going to say that it looks good. Going to drop this here. And this is a really cool image. We can use it here inside our UI, our UI. I want to use this actually on that Spotify gear section, but I'm actually going to do this in a different way. I'm going to duplicate my image right now, and I'm going to use this image. I'm just going to do copy properties, which is something that always existed in Figma, in case you didn't know. And I'm going to apply it here. So I have that little image on the background, and maybe I can use the crop to make it so that it's like a little bit more like that, I think. I don't think we have expand image, which would be amazing. That I don't think we have, but we can use something like this, and I'll figure out how to do a little quick fix on that background there. I just want the person to be somewhere around here. And then maybe I can use another layer here to just copy that background color and simulate that it's like fully occupied there. Well, actually, this created another layer. I wasn't expecting that. Kind of, it looks fine. It's not perfect, but it's already adjusted. But I want to add a little bit of an extra to this. So I want to make it so that the person actually pops up on that image. So one thing that you can actually also do now is remove background with AI. So a bunch of plugins kind of not necessary anymore, because remove background will try to do its best to figure out what the image is, remove the background. You can see here, background has been removed. Now you can pull this in, drop it there. But if you really want it to be inside the file but not stuck, you can use comment while you're putting the object in. Instead of just using comment to add it in, you can use I think it's control. Yeah, comment control. The control option will make it so it's not stuck to the auto layout. So it's just going to be inside the auto layout, but on that fixed position thing, like the ignore auto layout option that you have here. So you don't need to activate it afterwards. Then I can just kind of use this to scale it up in this case and try to match it to what we have here. So I think she kind of is like this. Shoulder should be aligned. So this is already creating a little bit of that depth effect that I was looking for. She can jump out of the image, and now maybe I can, I don't know, pull that Spotify. I can use the auto layout to put it more to the left, and maybe I can now, okay, she should probably be a little bit more like here on the corner, on the right. So, and then we're gonna move this background here and pull it there or something. I don't know. The background actually is not necessary, so I can probably just take it out and leave her there. And then play around with our rounded corners if we want to. And you get that effect works really well. It took me a while to get that image, but you can see that we now got, just using AI and a few other tools that Figma provides, elements to build our UI really fast. We can then do little bit of branding. I don't know about you guys. I like some of these like stronger colors. Maybe we can use the gray there, starting to look cool. And if you want to fill these images here, you can also use the make image. I think it still needs to be one by one, so you can just use one make image at a time. You can try and use like Nike Air Max as the example of the image that you're looking for. And I think it lost the layer that I was trying to make the image on. So that's why I created his here. I can probably just click here again and do make an image. Yeah, and now it's going to work exactly on the layer. Give it a second, and it will try to reproduce what you're asking for. So I think like this one should be a good one, or like this one has a little bit more color, so I'm going to use this. Now I get the second thing that I want. Again, select the layer, make image, drop the name of what I want, and ask for it. And it's just going to start being easier and doing the job of generating images for us. The representation of brands, I don't know how it's working right now, but apparently it can get some of the detail. So I don't know what type of models are being used for this, but these are very much close to what those products usually are. So that's fun. Let me just go again, make an image, drop the last item. But it's still kind of cool how you get a lot of these really fast by using this type of product. Like, use the AI features are kind of like really simple for this. And if in any case you decide, yeah, this is cool and everything, but actually I need this into another language because I have customers in, let's say, Spain, you can actually just pull this up, look for Spanish Spain, and it will translate the entire UI into the language that you want to. So really fast translation. It did break the Deportify gear over here. I just wrote the Spotify gear, but you can see that it literally changes all the labels, kept the product names because it understood that they were product names, and kept the prices also, same thing. So it was super fast to just test out our designs in two languages, just using AI for translation. So you get a little bit of an overview of what you're looking for. Any questions so far? I would still love to have you guys participate a little bit more. These streams are always better when you guys drop some questions and some ideas. I'm going to delete the translated version here because what I want now actually is to create a couple of new UIs. And we're going to just do a quick thing. We're going to try to create our product UIs so that we get that really fast like overview of our products. So I'm just going to use the same information, drop it here, make our images a little bit bigger, make it fill container and maybe like 3 times this size. Oof, kind of broke. Put it on another layout so we can get that nice padding, get that information that I have here, pull it out, the pricing, pull it out, and we can also start doing things like fill container here. Maybe we can make our product names get a little bit bigger, like the body font from there, or even use that color. We can use white for the text here instead of using black to improve readability. We can pull our price somewhere here on the top by the product again, make it white. And I think this is not okay. There you go. I'm going to make it hug components, give a little bit more space, and maybe make this a little bit bigger because it feels like it's too tied up and too small. So we have our product page really fast. I still feel like we're missing something, and I would say that that mostly is one of those navigation bars, so you can go back. So I'm just going to ask for one of my favorite plugins, which is Lucid Icons, where I can just look here for a little icon. There you go. I got the go back arrow, put it in an auto layout. And maybe put a label there inside the auto layout that says back. And well, there's a lot of padding here, so I'm just gonna reduce that padding and introduce padding around the image so it is more normal. So now we have a page for our Nike Air Max. I can just duplicate this page and do the same for the others. So I got the Adidas Ultra Boost, get the content, drop the content. If you want to paste content without copying the styles, Command Shift V or Control Shift V should do the trick. So you copy the text, you do Shift V, and it just pastes the text, not the rest of the information. And why am I doing this like this? Well, one thing that you should know that it's also super fast to do with the Figma AI is prototypes. So you literally can now have this design done and select make prototype, and it will now try to understand our and just pick up your prototype. So you select all of them, make prototype. It will look for all the connections that they believe exists and just create those connections really fast. And now you have your prototype done. Again, mostly like the layers, it's super simple. It doesn't take a lot of detail. It does basic connections like just tap on tap, navigate to. It doesn't have animations by default. You can add those afterwards. So in this case, if I wanted to try out, it kind of just, you can see the device here. Let's see if it opens. It kind of just works as a tap and click and button click type of prototype with not much animation, but you can then make that work a little bit better by doing stuff like I'm going to select this tree. Instead of having instant, I'm going to have, for example, the move in from the left. And then I can do the same for these animations here that go back. Animation will do, well, actually, these will immediately do the same thing, which is the opposite thing, which is using the reverse animation. So now you already have like a very cool prototype working here. You can also then adjust to make it more real by doing things like, for example, animate matching layers. That will make it so that, for example, the nav bar stays in place. But you can also have some problems like this. So be careful when you try to do this on what you can get. Or if that's not good enough, you can instead of using move in, you can use slide in, which I do believe will do a better effect. So in this case, again, yeah, you get a little bit of the notion of how these things work, but it's really, really easy and fast to using Figma AI do a bunch of these things. One last thing that I didn't talk about, but I think a lot of you guys probably will love is, let's say that I have, for example, this UI here. I can just, I'm going to just close that there, duplicate this here. Right now it's using a bunch of AI, a bunch of auto layouts. What I'm going to do is I'm literally just going to turn off all my auto layouts here. Let's say that you designed this by hand. You had a bunch of stuff that were kind of like ungrouped and everything. What Figma now has is, besides the regular auto layout, when you click on Shift A, and it's here on this little button, where you would get like a really weird composition and things probably don't look perfect, and you are only doing it on one level and not every level. You actually now can do this really cool thing, which is I think it's option, well, actually Control Shift A. Yeah, and Control Shift A will do the following. On Mac, on Windows, I actually don't know what the option is, but it will give you essentially a auto layout suggestion mode, which will try to make a better auto layout structure that creates a bunch of auto layouts and puts your information in the correct structure. So you can see that I now have 1, 2, 3 auto layout frames and making sure that everything is working. I do believe that some things might be broken, but just because it doesn't know what to do with them. In this case, for example, I want this to be stuck on the bottom, and it didn't know that. But now I can still just pick this up, stick it to the bottom, use this part here, and let's see if it's working. it's not working because it's inside frame 3 and not inside the app. So I'm just going to pull to the top level. Let's see if this works. There we go. And yeah, now it should be. So it always demands a little bit of fixing, but you don't need to do all of those other layouts and understand how they should be built. The app will do it for you. Again, I could just turn off auto layout on any of these, go in, maybe even ungroup everything. So let me just do this and then try to ungroup as much as I can. So for example, all of these things that are here on frames, I can just take it out, just leave it like this on the loose, and then Command Shift A, and then it will try to figure out what are the best frames. It just grouped everything in auto layouts, and you can see that all of them now have very well set up auto layouts based on the design that you built. We're coming in on the last 10 minutes. I still didn't have any questions today, which is cool, but at the same time, not cool. Guys, would love to hear all your questions and thoughts. But yeah, one thing that we can't look at during these last 10 minutes. So Akemi is asking if, in terms of performance, Figma with this UI is better or worse. For me, it has been better. I know that a lot of things people are not used to it, but this feels very much like a tool that matches my way of thinking, which is a systems thinker. I am a brand designer, but I think full time more than a UI designer. But I think of all of these things as a systems tool. And since I think of Figma as a systems tool and I start to build it in that way, this matches a lot of my mental model. So since the shortcuts are a lot the same and I use a lot of shortcuts, since a lot of the things are now more visible, I haven't found that much difficulty working with it. I actually been a little bit faster actually. I do notice that I still struggle with new stuff, like when I need to find a Boolean operation, something like that. Like I wasn't ready for those things to change so much, but overall, I haven't felt that many difficulties. Still, I am only using UI3 for Friends of Figma content. I still don't have access to it on my day job. So that also means that I don't have access to it during the bigger workloads that I work on, right? So I can't really say that that would affect in a different way. But in any case, it has been somewhat fast. I haven't felt lost in any way. Most of the things still are in the same place. Some of the icons kind of changed, like the variables icon that already existed, if I'm not mistaken, on the old UI, now becomes something that feels a little bit more global, right? That's a settings icon. So now it shows up on lots of places. Like if you look at the fonts now, instead of being the three dots, is the settings. So those types of standardization have helped me a lot. But at the end of the day, I still didn't have enough experience with this to actually be able to say, "Oh, I'm like 80% faster." No, but I am somewhat faster with some of these tools because I've noticed that I spend less time thinking about some of these things, or if I'm gonna look for a plugin for them or anything, I kind of just use the native features and they help me. I hope this gives you a little bit of an overview again. Okay, 6 minutes to the end. We can go a little bit overboard. I have a page called Figma Slides, but it's not the page that we need. We actually need a new file. So I'm just going to come here, click on the plus. You can now see if you have any plan on Figma, the new slide deck option. You can see it when you click on the plus on the top to open a new tab. You can see it here on your recents. In your drafts, if you click on create new, you also should be able to see it here. If you work for an organization, you might not see it because sometimes they hide those features. So be aware that since these are beta features, they can be turned off by admins on your organization. So it's good to know that. But yeah, Figma Slides, it's essentially a really cleaner way to streamline what we would do before using Figma presentations. You get by default a couple of very simple
templates that you can use, or you can start from scratch, but essentially gives you access to these two. Or you have a gigantic collection of templates that you can start from. If you want to build your pitch deck, if you want to play with a marketing strategy, these templates are already all kind of set up in a way that they have information for you. The UI is quite similar to Figma. So if you choose a template to start, let's say that we start with start the pitch and we click on the cover slide or whatever you want to call this, it's going to start like that. You can see that overall the UI is very similar to the UI3 that Figma has, but it is more limited on purpose. You can kind of just try and see how to use this. Here you can see that all of these things have some sort of like way of them to work, but it's very similar to how Figma works. On the side, you get more of a simplified panel. You have styles that come built in by default, with stuff like dimensions that come in built by default, and they can look weird, like this one in this case. But you have really cool tools, like if you want to remix the colors of the template, you can do color remix. This one is actually not working really well, so I'm just gonna test out with one that I know that has been working a little bit better. So I'm just gonna turn on this one. You can also see the grid lines are not like in Figma, so you can actually just turn on your grids and organize your content. You can import stuff from Figma also, copy and paste, really easy. And you can use, again, the styles. You can just click here and it's going to use the colors that you have on the theme to try and create different applications. And if you want to update your styles and update them all over, it's exactly like what you would do in Figma. You click here on edit text style. You can choose the properties and everything. As I said, it's a simplified panel. If you want to add something with a little bit more content, let's say that we do this, and we have here information, we can still use our whatever options we want to write content. So let's say that we want to write about, let's say, I'm a brand designer and interaction expert working with Figma as my main design tool. So me trying to present myself really fast, but I don't like how it kind of feels. It feels very short and not that cool. And I want it to be better. So this little icon here gives you AI options to change the mood and the tone of your content. It will pick up on what you have written there, and you can choose either one of these four: executive, technical, basic, or educational, or you can just move this around this quadrant and choose what you want. So you can be more concise or more expanded, so less or more text, more professional or more casual. In my case, I want to go for the expanded casual. I'm going to try and see if I can get the most out of those two. They don't have that much content, but you can see that it's already working. If I try to go to the professional, it's going to change the language. As a professional specialized in branding and design interaction, I utilize Figma as my primary tool for design tasks. If I go to casual, hey there, I specialize in brand design and interactive experiences. My go-to design tool is Figma, which I use for all my projects. So you can see that it changes stuff quite fast. And some of the other cool things that you can do with this is you can add interactive stuff, including prototypes. So if you have an app prototype that you just want to drop here, you can just drop it. Some of the templates even have already some like devices and everything ready for you to kind of just drop your app designs or whatever you want. In this case, since I can click here and click on a prototype, if I look for the prototype that we just built here on the Figma AI, I can just open it on presentation view, copy my link, and I closed the wrong tab, so sorry about that. Come back here, drop the link to the prototype, and we'll add an interactive prototype to your interface, ready to use. You can then place it whatever you want. You can scale it. It's really simple to kind of just pick up on one of those prototypes that you've been working on. And instead of having to do a video or anything like that, you can now just make it work here. It will literally load the prototype. You can click on it like you would and anything else. And since this is now a presentation tool, You also have other things like stamps if you want people to tell you that they reviewed. Yes, changes on the prototype will update on the slides because you're basically watching a live prototype rather than a recording. So if for some reason during the presentation someone gives context of, oh, you know what would be nice, and you want to just pick up on that feedback and apply it in real time, you can test it out. So it's really cool because of that, because it's not a recording, it's a live link, like everything else in Figma. Sounds good? Okay. I don't know what the M stands for. It's just M point George. So I'm just gonna say that sounds good. M point George. um, we also have stuff like polls, so you can actually have a poll and share the presentation, so people can vote on this slide. You also can use stamps. So basically, this is like if you share it with your colleagues and they see the presentation, they basically click here and say stamp me if you agree or whatever. They can basically drop a comment. And last but not least, you also have the alignment scales, sorry, where you can literally drop your face saying that you agree or disagree with something. These are cool interactive tools. You can put them anywhere really fast. Another cool thing that it has, I would love that the native Figma tool had, is tables like FigJam. So it's kind of easy enough to just build a table, organize a table, super clean, super fast. And you still have comments, and you have access to the assets panel that should connect to your own libraries if you want to. So you can click here, add your own libraries, but by default already comes with a few icons and diagrams that you can use. Last but not least, still on this side, if you want to do a little bit more than just this, you can just do Shift D, and it will. Give me a second. Well, it's not working apparently. It might be because it's not in a team. I think it needs to be in a team. So I'm just going to come here, move this into one of my teams. Sorry about that. Okay, I think I need to do it outside. If you could give me a second, I'm going to put it here on my working files. So it needs to be in a team so that you have access to some of the tools, including the Figma AI stuff. So rewriting, shortcut, shortening, and everything. You get those if you have it on a team, paid team or a student team in this case. And then you can also use Shift T to enter design mode, and you get the native Figma features for you to kind of just do whatever you want with the layouts. You can use auto layouts on presentations, things that are more common and everything like that. Last but not least, you can use Animate that uses the same type of animations to do the transitions between slides. If you want to introduce something like a smart animate and maybe, for example, copy this prototype from this page to this page, this means that if you enter, let's see if it works. I think it should, but I'm not 100% sure. I'm gonna do present, and you get the little smart animation. It's not perfect, most likely because it's an interactive option, but you can see that the text is very smooth doing that animation, because it can see that the text box has the same name of the layer. So there's a few cool things that you get out of this. Plus, if you want to use the presentation, I did a full screen and that's what I wanted. It still gets the same type of interaction that you have before. You have comments, so anyone can drop comments. You can kind of just navigate your presentation back and forth and see how it goes. So that's easy enough. And if you want, I don't think I can share the same thing. Well, actually, I think you're going to see the version that I want, which is the screen with presentation notes. So if you put any presenter notes here on the bottom, you now get them on the presenter version. You can see them there. One cool thing that this has compared with other sites, with other features, not other features, sorry, with other tools, for example, like let's say Google Slides or Microsoft PowerPoint, is it uses Figma native way of working, which is if you update it, it updates live. So if for some reason you need to update someone needs to fix your presenter notes or drop you a message, they can edit your presenter notes on the deck, and you would get those updates live, and it's really good for you to get that information. You have the option to see the version where you most just have presenter notes, or the version where you have slides and notes, and you can select the dimension of the thing. So very common presenter tool. And that's mostly it. It did come to mind that I forget about one feature in Figma, so I'm going to get back to it in the end before closing the presentation. But last but not least, you can also have the grid view, which gives you an overview of all slides. And if you want to reorder them, you can kind of just drag and drop. Or if you want to create sections, you can just do this. You can duplicate slides really fast and create sections. And then when you go back, you now have section 1, section 2, and the slide numbers organized in that way. It's super easy to use Figma Slides to do that work. And if you ever want to build your own decks, I suggest you try it out. Okay, before closing, last feature that I forgot, but that one is actually really cool. We built our iPhone app here, but let's say that we want to test out and see how it feels instead of being fixed as a responsive prototype. Now that's an option. So you can turn on responsive, and I think you might have to take out the device. You need to be on no device for this to work correctly. But now you can see how your designs act based on a responsive kind of situation. So you can actually build a design that is ready to use auto layout and other features to go from mobile to tablet version, for example, and you can easily just showcase how those things work. For example, I don't really like the Spotify gear thing happening like this. Now I can just, based on this test that I did, come here, readjust what I want. I want it to fill container. I want this image to be attached to the right and to the bottom here. And if I start my prototype again, let's see, it's still not there, but it's getting there. But it still allows you to kind of just play around with your thing. Actually, why is it? Now I need to figure out what I did wrong. I don't think I did anything wrong, but it's apparently aligned to the wrong side. I think it's because this is not how it should be. And reset aspect ratio, restart. It's just a bug. I found the bug. There you go. Okay. Christina, Rabia, M. George, Akemi, Christian. Thank you all for staying until the end, Igor, also. I hope you guys enjoyed today's session. Before you go, a last reminder. I don't know if you know, but we have a conference coming up called Layers. It's happening on September 20 here in Lisbon, but also on the browser. If you visit our site, FoF/layers.pt, you can save the date, basically do a pre-registration, and that will give you access to early information and early access to the tickets. Plus, if you really want to join us in Lisbon, I'm pretty sure that you're going to love the venue. The venue is called IDB Lisbon, and we have this amazing rooftop for us the entire day. It's a really cool spot. So not only the content is going to be amazing, but the place is really cool. And last but not least, we are doing a call for speakers. If you go to the website, as I shared on the Slack, on the chat right now, you can apply to become a speaker until July 22nd. So this Monday. And yeah, I'm waiting for all of you guys to join us online for every other session. And if you ever have other questions or topics that you want to bring to the Dr. Figma live streams, let me know. Let the Friends of Figma Portugal team know. We're happy to have your ideas and just go live with them. So thank you very much, everyone. See you soon.